Hi everyone, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, I really appreciate it, thank you. So November is looking like a complicated month, as I say in the title of the video, because we have planetary stations, and whenever you get planetary stations, things tend to intensify, become more important events take place, etc. Now, this particular month has a mixed quality on multiple levels. First level would be that, yes, there are stations, and yes, they're two incredibly important planets, but because Jupiter is stationing in the 25th degree of Cancer, while Saturn is stationing at 25 plus degrees Pisces, you get a trine in the sky. This is actually good. This becomes the first contradiction of sorts, because if planets station in square or opposition, it tends to be more difficult. The events can become more dangerous, more explosive, more complicated, etc. So in this sense, it's good that the stations are in trine. Now, where you get further dualities, further mixed messages, is when you look at the degrees and you notice that they connect very explicitly to the president's chart. And it's because he has a Saturn-Venus conjunction in the 12th house in Cancer. That's where Jupiter is essentially parking. And then on the other side, the Saturn from Pisces, 25 degrees, trines that Jupiter. Now, what this means is that we have to expect that he will get some wins, some victories. And indeed, I would already classify the recent accomplishment for which he is being highlighted in Time magazine, even though he is simultaneously really upset because they picked a picture that he doesn't like. Nevertheless, the article is a glowing, practically sycophantic article praising him in all kinds of ways. So this is definitely a win. And you see this in the astrology frequently, that when something is happening in the upcoming weeks, much like with eclipses, for example, you notice that important events which reflect the pattern in the sky already begin to emerge. And so this would be a case of something going well for him. And we probably have to expect that he may get one, two, or three other things. However, or not, meaning that just as frequently you get a situation like this and you don't get much, you just get something in quotes, especially because even though there is a trine in the sky and it is connecting to his 12th house Venus, after all, it is the 12th house, which is a very complicated house, number one. Number two, the Saturn from the 8th sign, yes, it trines, but it's also very close to squaring his sun degrees. And this is a lot more difficult, a lot more challenging, and a lot more likely to produce losses instead of wins. And so on that account, for example, when you look at the fact that the 8th relates to questions of tariffs, because tariffs are essentially taxes, and those degrees are pretty much equivalent to the degrees Saturn was in back in the spring when he launched the tariff initiative. And it's pretty clear that these tariffs continue to erode the economy through increasing inflation and maintaining a level of instability that is not good for the economy. And I remember saying multiple times across the months following the spring initiative, the whatever he called it, the Liberation Day thing, that it would come back to haunt him toward the end of the year. So in that sense, that would be an example where the possibility of losses is enhanced. Now, going back to potential wins or positive messages, you could make the case that having the trine going through there would at least offset somewhat the health concerns that he's dealing with, because the overall pattern is downward and it is declining, but during the period of the trine, it can help him out. You see this a lot with Jupiter conjunctions or Jupiter involved in trines. At the same time, however, you look around for other stations, and what do you see? You see Neptune is due to station shortly after these other two station. You could say November are the Saturn, Jupiter stations. December is Neptune. Neptune is stationing in a very complicated place for him because it's very, very late in the sign in Pisces. And from there, it's doing a quincunx, a 150 to his ascendant. And I would even include the rising Mars because it's not too far away from there. That is much more complicated. And that one, in a sense, completely counterbalances or cancels almost the effect of potential health benefits, because that angle that Neptune is making is not good and often correlates with downtrending and with all kinds of negative effects. And or you also get maladjustments. Those are the kinds of aspects that if they don't take you down completely, then you have to deal with things being off kilter, things not working very well. And so that particular aspect is not helpful at all. And to this, you have to add that also in November, you have Uranus retrograding back into Taurus from where it has been the last couple of months in Gemini. And really this encompasses late October as well, because by the time you get into late October, even though it hasn't quite yet returned to Taurus, it's already squaring Trump's ascendant from the zenith of his chart. And this is quite complicated and dangerous because Uranus is prone to explosive situations, shocking patterns, and when you point it to the ascendant like that in a square, that also puts his health at risk, or the risk of events turning on him, things not working out the way he expects. And this, combined with the Neptune station, pretty dramatically offsets any of the positive effects that he's going to get from the Jupiter trining Saturn, cutting across that 12th house into the Venus. So, bottom line, a complicated month in the sense that, of course, it would have been much better from the perspective of not wanting this guy to do well, to have the stations in the sky make really harsh hits. But we have to be fair. I mean, let's face it, it's always good if anyone accomplishes something that reduces the suffering of people. And even though I have to tell you that I'm skeptical that this thing in Gaza will stick for any length of time, because they're painting it as this huge success, but I have a feeling at best it'll last for a while. But nevertheless, people are suffering terribly in that part of the world. So anything that can be done by anybody to bring about some relief is always good. I'll stop there. I'll definitely be doing more videos on the situation in November, but this is the first thing I'll say, because that trine in the sky with those two big planets is definitely very important.